What's a dispensationalist, Dr. Hummel? Tell us
Yeah.
what you categorize that as.
Yeah, and I'll start with I'll get to the definition of it, but first it might be helpful just to think about like where would you find dispensationalists in the church, because it's more of a sociological definition than a theological definition. But
Okay.
um, and that actually changes over time. So dispensationalism in America starts actually among Presbyterians are very well represented, Congregationalists, like traditions you might not associate with dispensationalism today. But today, dispensationalism is quite popular in independent Baptist circles. I know here in Wisconsin, there's a small school just a few hours from here called Maranatha Bible College that
Oh yeah.
basically fills a lot of independent Baptist pulpits with their students. They're dispensationalist. There are sort of wings of certainly Southern Baptists have a dispensationalist flavor, though most of the seminaries aren't promoting dispensationalism as the theological tradition. The key seminaries are Dallas Theological Seminary. They are by far the sort of citadel of dispensational theology. The Divinity School at Liberty is dispensationalist. You have to be a dispensationalist to teach there. And then there are others like Talbot Seminary that are on paper dispensationalist. I'm always interested on practice versus what's in the document, and it's interesting to me. Like someone like Ed Stetzer now is the dean at Talbot, and as far as I know, Ed Stetzer is not a dispensationalist, but he oversees a seminary that is it's named after Louis Talbot, who was a very prominent dispensationalist teacher and preacher in the early 20th century. And you'll find a lot of dispensational teachings all across evangelical churches, partly because dispensationalism is so well integrated into our media landscape. And so whether they might not be getting, the average Christian might not get dispensationalism from their own pastor, but they might be reading a fiction book or a popular theological book or watching a television show, a televangelist show that has someone who's assuming dispensationalism as well. So that's part of what I get into in the book is what I call pop dispensationalism, or this widespread basically default to dispensationalism by a lot of Christians who don't even know what is that they're they don't know that that's a particular tradition within the church. So anyway, it's an interesting and it's an ever evolving landscape of where dispensationalism is currently popular. And the fall in my title, The Rise and Fall of Dispensationalism, is to track the fall in the academic theological conversation of dispensationalism in the last 50 or so years. It's definitely fallen on harder times, but it's also become a very popular cultural way of talking about eschatology, even beyond the Christian realm. I think we talked about that already a little. There's sort of a secularized version of dispensationalism that's pretty popular. You see there's comedy movies and post-apocalyptic movies that basically treat the Bible, the like true Bible believing characters as characters who believe in dispensationalism, because that's become sort of the default eschatology for non-Christians when they think about Christians. All that being said, the actual definition on a theological level of dispensationalism is way bigger than just eschatology. So that's a big part of it. There's a particular way that dispensationalists talk about the end of the world or talk about what's going to happen next on the prophetic timeline that is very distinctive. And it starts with one of the most famous teachings, the any moment rapture, which could happen right now. It could happen tomorrow. The idea that at some point the Christians on earth will be translated into heaven and will be with Jesus in the air, and that will set off a sequence of prophetic events that include a 7-year tribulation, include the rise of a personal antichrist, include just horrible things happening on the earth that will culminate in the Battle of Armageddon, which will happen for dispensationalists in Tel Megiddo, in this location in modern-day Israel, where the forces of Satan and the Antichrist will confront the forces of Jesus and the saints, and Jesus will be victorious and will establish the millennial kingdom at that point. And then there will be further things to happen, but that's probably enough for now for most people. If they've heard that version of the end times, which include things like the mark of the beast being some literal mark that everyone will take, and the Antichrist one world government will either sort of allow you to operate or not based on if you have that mark, which is a sign of loyalty to the Antichrist, all that kind of stuff. That's a dispensationalist reading of the Christian end times.